Hornets are going to move back from number 6 to number 12. In exchange, they're going to acquire a 2025 first-round pick via Miami, which I believe is lottery protected or 1 through 10. So then it would obviously convert or would either convey if Miami is not a playoff team, or is a playoff team rather, but it would not convey if Miami is not a playoff team. And then they get a 2025 second rounder via Boston or Memphis, which you can assume, obviously, given Memphis's health situation, presumably improving, Boston running it back to some degree, that will probably be between 50 and 60. So late second rounder, like two-way player, a future first, and then you drop 6 spots. So I think this is probably another one that would definitely not win any awards and not really impress fans per se. But if that's your option, and like we said, the board doesn't really fall your way, Klingon is basically the best player there, and he just doesn't want you, or you don't want him, and he doesn't want to be there. This would be something that I think would be perfectly attainable and would just keep adding to that asset cupboard of future draft picks that this new regime seems like pretty keen on replenishing, because the Hornets haven't really had any other teams' picks in quite some time. So it's nice to keep adding those going forward and give yourself an element of surprise, I guess. If some other team ends up being bad, you can benefit.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. On my board, I don't know if you sort your big board into tiers, but I've got a tier from basically 5 to like 15, 16, which I've all got in the same tier, which is kind of like basically depending on what your play style is, depending on where there are kind of like clear roles. Again, I'm not saying drafting for fit, but I'm talking about, play style roles, everything like that. Complements. I could see and make an argument for like any of those guys going ahead of any of the others. And like you might say 5 to 16, that's a really big range. And I agree with you. It's not normally that big. Normally, like there is a second group there, but that's what this year's draft is. I think there is a real lack of consensus. You see places where Ron Holland is ranked number 1 on some people's board. You see him outside the lottery. It is a wide range this year. So I think moving back to 12, I don't think you're like going down to a sub tier of caliber prospect. Like I think some might presume here. So with this one, I think the Thunder, they've obviously got so many first round picks and they need to start using them up. And they probably only do this if they, again, like are in love with someone at 6, like a Donovan Klingon, for example. They could also make this kind of trade offer to probably a lot of other teams, similar where Charlotte are as well, to move up or down. But look, there's clearly a good working relationship there. The Gordon Hayward trade was done. They've already done a deal before. That shows that they can come to agreement. Does Sam Presti want to trade with the Hornets again after getting swindled last time? Maybe not. Maybe Sam Presti is avoiding Charlotte right now, which would be some hilarious irony and all that. But look, I'd be very much in for this trade. It's, again, I think it'll be player dependent on what OKC are looking to do. I guess the only other argument is, do they want to use their draft capital on like adding more win now players than like moving up in the draft and getting more young guys? I mean, yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's likely they try and move up in this year's draft?
I mean, to be perfectly honest, like I would prioritize it, like adding a win now player, like maybe a Kevin Durant or a Devin Booker or something like that. Like any, star that may come available this summer. They obviously have probably more capital than anyone in the league to position themselves to acquire that type of player. But they honestly have so many picks that they could do both. Like they could complete this trade and then very, very conceivably trade for any player in the entire league. Like you could pick whatever best player that you think could come available. Like that would probably be Kevin Durant. Like realistically, they would still have 2025 first round picks or 3 2025 first round picks along with their own after this trade to send out in a trade. They would have 2 in 2027 along with their own. And then they have 1 in 2028 along with their own. Like they have so many picks coming up that are like without even getting rid of their own picks that they can trade. Some of them are obviously more protected than others, so that increases and diminishes the value, but they would have no problem doing both, honestly. And if I were them, this would be the summer where I'm like, all right, let's like really push all of our chips in because we got really close this year. If we make like 1 to 2 like big trades, we're probably all set for like a couple years going forward in terms of like big roster moves. So, I mean, if I were them, I would be looking to move up and down the board wherever you can. and get a guy that you like, and then also position yourself to acquire a win now player.
Yeah. And there's prior precedent for this, right? The Thunder, they moved up. How many first round picks did they give up to draft Usman Jang? Wasn't it like 3?
I think so.
They get, so they did that to draft like a guy. I want to say
they don't
Jang
even play him
around 12. Yeah, like something like that.
Yeah.
So this wouldn't surprise me. I think this is a good trade. I think it's just really logical. You can make a good case for it for both sides. Obviously, it just depends if the Thunder value the guy at 6 that much to give away a future first, but they can do it.